that. Yeah. That's weird. I don't know why.
Yes, you do. I'm not stupid and I'm not blind.
You were guessing? Look, she's obviously gonna tell you. So just act surprised, okay? None of this has to change things between us.
Joel, I think I found something.
Whoa!
What?
Oh, nothing. It's just your forehead seems bigger than last season.
I think I found a way through over there.
When Bella Ramsey first stepped into the world of The Last of Us, she wasn't just filling a role, she was inheriting one of the most iconic characters in gaming history. Ellie was raw, layered, emotional, and Bella, with all eyes on her, took the challenge head-on.
It's never any fun not being able to go to sleep, just like it wasn't any fun watching Last of Us Season 2. So, in the show, Ellie still looks exactly the same, but is supposed to be 5 years older. Also, Ellie still acts exactly the same. So it really conflicts with what the character's supposed to be portrayed as here. Like most people, I liked the first season. I thought they did a great job.
Season 1 was a triumph. The fans were loud, the critics louder, and the awards, they were already stacking up. But behind every high is the risk of an even harder fall. Because when Season 2 dropped, it didn't just miss the mark, it crashed hard. The ratings? Savage. The feedback? Unforgiving. And at the heart of it all stood Bella Ramsey, suddenly the face of a show now surrounded by disappointment, backlash, and bitter fans.
Yes, maybe we can prop it open with something and you can slide.
Whoa! Oh my god, what?
Is it getting bigger?
Stop it.
No, seriously, what's with that?
It's fine, Joel.
Does it hurt?
Joel, please. You're making me self-conscious.
I'm sorry, it's just a little bit startling.
It's a normal head, Joel. Can we just get back to the door things?
Planetary.
Leave it.
It's gonna have its own area code soon.
The audience turned on her almost overnight. Memes, roasts, hashtags. It wasn't just criticism, it was war. And while the internet flared with outrage, behind the scenes, Bella Ramsey reportedly wasn't taking it well. The once rising star now seemed shaken. Her social media posts became cryptic, emotional, and in one now deleted tweet, downright worrying.
Season 2, I was skeptical on them not recasting Ellie and keeping Bella Ramsey as Ellie because it's supposed to take place 5 years into the future, but obviously Bella Ramsey in real life was not going to age that much in, the 2 years it took between seasons, because Ellie still looks and acts like a 14-year-old from Season 1, even though she's supposed to be 19.
So, what really happened with The Last of Us Season 2? Why did fans turn on Bella so suddenly? And is this the end of the road for her role in the franchise? Let's rewind and unpack the spiral that nobody saw coming. The first season of The Last of Us wasn't just successful, it was a cultural phenomenon. It turned video game storytelling into prestige television. It brought gamers and critics together. And more importantly, it made Ellie and Joel household names beyond the console. So, when HBO greenlit Season 2, expectations weren't just high, they were astronomical. But then came the premiere of Season 2, and almost instantly, the numbers started to wobble.
So maybe if I just move some of this debris, we can get the door open and crack.
Hey! Oh my goodness, Joel! What do I do?
Jesus!
Joel, focus!
Again?
Joel!
Okay, I guess just use your telekinesis?
I don't have telekinesis, Joel!
I don't believe you! Look at the size of that thing! Just try, Ellie, please! I think it's working, Ellie. Keep trying! Come on, cranium!
Episode 1 saw a decent start, strong viewership, decent Rotten Tomatoes critic scores, but audience reviews told a different story. Longtime fans began to raise red flags almost immediately. The pacing was off. The tone felt different. Some even claimed it didn't feel like The Last of Us anymore.
Ellie just doesn't feel like she's changed. She still feels like that same kid from Season 1 who's just constantly joking and extremely immature. In the game, Ellie has a lot more grit. Ellie is also smart in the game. For some reason, they made the decision for The Last of Us Season 2 to make Ellie dumb, to the point where she even says that she's stupid.
But that wasn't even the biggest issue. As the episodes rolled on, something became painfully clear. The heart of the criticism was centered around Bella Ramsey's portrayal of Ellie. Critics still offered some praise, but the viewer ratings started to plummet. Rotten Tomatoes audience score below 40% by episode 3. IMDb reviews dropped into the 5s, unheard of for a franchise this loved. Online forums and reaction videos exploded with frustration. Viewers said the show had lost its soul. Reddit threads were full of comparisons between the game version of Ellie and Bella's interpretation, with comments like, "She doesn't carry the same fire," "emotionally flat," "This doesn't feel like the Ellie we knew," and once the numbers turned, the snowball didn't stop.
Why? That just kind of betrays the character. Yeah, she's supposed to be, like, reckless and everything, but that doesn't mean that she's some, like, feels like the actual main character of Season 2, whereas Ellie just feels like the quirky sidekick constantly scrambling to make a quip. That it's all Bella Ramsey's acting's fault here for the lackluster season.
YouTubers started posting breakdowns titled things like "What Went Wrong with Season 2" and "How HBO Destroyed The Last of Us." TikToks flooded with scene comparisons between the game's Ellie and Bella's version. Fan-made edits even went viral, replacing her with the video game model.
You killed Joel. He did what he saved me. I'm the one that there's no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Let him go. I let you both live. And you wasted it.
Within just a few weeks, the internet's tone shifted entirely, from applause to open revolt. But while the audience vented, Bella Ramsey was watching. And behind the scenes, the pressure was building in ways no one could fully understand yet. It didn't take long for critics to point fingers. And in this case, all eyes turned to Bella Ramsey. Now, to be fair, Bella was never going to have it easy. Replacing an animated character that fans spent years bonding with? That's already walking into a firestorm. But what happened in Season 2 was more than that. It wasn't just about differences in appearance or voice. It was about emotional connection, or the perceived lack of it. In Season 1, Bella was largely praised for a fresh, intense take on Ellie. Her emotional scenes hit hard, and her chemistry with Pedro Pascal's Joel held the show together. But Season 2, the writing shifted. The character arc grew darker, more bitter, and fans didn't like what they saw. Suddenly, Ellie was being portrayed as colder, emotionally distant, and in many moments, hard to root for. Fans started saying things like, "She doesn't feel like Ellie anymore. Is this the writing? Or is Bella just wrong for the role? She's just not carrying the emotional weight." On top of that, rumors swirled that Bella had clashed with the show's direction. A few outlets reported that she was uncomfortable with certain creative choices, especially regarding Ellie's emotional tone in later episodes. That tension began bleeding into the performance, or at least that's what fans believed. And then came the hashtag, "Recast Ellie, not my Ellie. Ellie deserved better." These weren't fringe internet voices. They were trending globally. Major fan accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers were openly calling for HBO to replace Bella. Some even suggested other actresses, while others launched petitions demanding her removal for Season 3. All of this hit hard and fast. Bella Ramsey, who had once been hailed as a bold casting choice and fan favorite, was now being blamed for a multi-million-dollar show's supposed collapse. And the worst part, she didn't publicly fight back. Instead, her social media presence began to change. Cryptic tweets, long pauses between posts, and one particular message, quickly deleted, that read, "I don't know if I'm the right person for this anymore." That single tweet sent the fandom into chaos. Was she leaving? Was she fired? Was she just having a moment? No one knew. But the message was clear. Bella was not okay. And as whispers of a backstage breakdown began to surface, what followed next would turn a bad situation into something far worse. While the internet was busy picking apart her performance, Bella Ramsey stayed quiet. For a while, that silence almost worked in her favor. Fans and critics debated, speculated, but without a direct response, there was still some mystery. Still some distance between the show's collapse and Bella herself. But every storm eventually cracks through. It started with a now viral interview during a promotional event for the mid-season finale. Bella was asked a pretty standard question, something about how she felt felt portraying Ellie during Season 2's emotional scenes. But what happened next wasn't standard at all. She froze. For a moment, she didn't answer. Her eyes welled up. Then, with a shaky voice, she said, "Sometimes it's hard, playing a character that people decide they hate before you even say a word." The clip blew up almost instantly. Millions of views. Reactions flooded in. Some fans doubled down, saying she was being dramatic or playing the victim. Others rallied behind her, calling out the online roasting and defending her performance. But that wasn't the only moment that raised eyebrows. Shortly after that interview, Bella posted a string of cryptic Instagram stories, song lyrics, black backgrounds, and one photo of her holding the original Last of Us game disc with the caption, "It started with love. It should have stayed that way." Then came the tweet, the one that really cracked open the conversation. It read, "Maybe I'm just not right for this version of her. Or maybe she was never mine to begin with." Fans were stunned. Within hours, number "We Love Bella" was trending, but so was number "Recast Ellie." It was a split down the middle. Some people saw a young actress crumbling under pressure she never asked for. Others saw someone admitting she wasn't right for a role too big to fake. And in the middle of it all, Bella Ramsey publicly unraveling while the world watched. Behind the scenes, insiders hinted that HBO had stepped in. One anonymous crew member claimed Bella was visibly distressed on set and had taken several unplanned days off. Another said she was considering stepping away from all social platforms for her mental health. Even Pedro Pascal, her co-star from Season 1, weighed in. In a tweet many believed was about Bella, he wrote, "Protect your peace, especially when the world refuses to." But the damage had already been done. Whatever shield she had left between her real self and the internet's version of her was gone. And now the pressure wasn't just emotional, it was professional. Because while The Meltdown was going viral, HBO executives were facing a very real question. What happens if your show's lead no longer wants to be there? As the backlash hit fever pitch, HBO had a decision to make. Stay quiet and let the chaos burn out, or step in and defend their lead actress head-on. They chose the second. In a hastily arranged press briefing, The Last of Us showrunners, Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, made their stance crystal clear. Bella is Ellie, period, Mazin said. You don't replace someone just because a loud part of the internet decides they'd rather watch a face from the game than a human being doing phenomenal work. It was a bold statement, and one that aimed to silence the noise. But the noise didn't stop. Instead, fans picked apart every word. On Reddit, threads lit up with angry responses. Bella is Ellie? Since when? Phenomenal work? Did we watch the same episode? Protecting your casting decision doesn't fix the story. And then came the rumors. Insider sources claimed that while HBO was backing Bella publicly, there were serious internal conversations about the direction of Season 3. According to one source quoted by an entertainment blog, executives were exploring contingencies, including the possibility of recasting or pivoting Ellie's storyline entirely. The showrunners, of course, denied this, but the timing was telling. Just days after Bella's emotional interview, a new casting call was leaked online, one that described a late-teen, emotionally complex female lead for an unnamed prestige drama. Fans immediately speculated it was a backup plan in case Bella chose not to return. The PR machine tried to fight back harder. Articles were pushed, interviews arranged, and even castmates came to Bella's defense. Gabriel Luna, who played Tommy, posted, "Bella gives everything in every scene. No one's more committed." Storm Reed, who returned briefly as Riley in flashbacks, wrote, "The hate she's getting? Disgusting. She's our Ellie." But the damage wasn't just to Bella, it was to the brand. The Last of Us, once praised as a perfect game-to-screen adaptation, was now being compared to other failed franchises. Fan videos titled things like Game of Thrones 2.0 and Another Show Ruined by Woke Casting gained millions of views. Even mainstream outlets started asking if the series had peaked in Season 1. Despite the defenses, the perception stuck. Bella Ramsey wasn't working. Whether that was fair or not didn't seem to matter anymore, and in the background, the one voice that was noticeably quiet was Bella's. She'd gone silent on all social media. Interviews dried up, and those close to production said she was stepping back to reflect. The problem? HBO might not have the luxury of time. Because with Season 3 already in pre-production, the question now wasn't if Bella would return, but whether fans would even accept her if she did. While the public reaction was explosive, what happened behind closed doors was even more unsettling. Because while Bella Ramsey was keeping silent online, people on the inside started talking, and what they described wasn't just emotional, it was a full-on meltdown. Multiple unverified but widely circulated reports began surfacing from crew members, PAs, and extras claiming Bella had a breakdown during one of the final shoots of the season. It was said to happen on the set of episode 7, a particularly emotional scene where Ellie is left isolated and broken. Ironically, the script called for tears, but according to a now-deleted crew member's social media post, what we saw wasn't acting anymore. The post went viral before it was removed. She collapsed after the take. No one clapped. It was silent. Everyone knew she wasn't okay. Another source from a YouTube gossip channel claimed Bella had a closed-door confrontation with the show's director, expressing frustration that she was being set up to fail. Allegedly, she said, "No matter what I do, they hate me. I don't know how to be someone I'm not." Whether the quotes were real or exaggerated, the damage was done. The rumors spread like wildfire. Even entertainment blogs picked up on it, publishing headlines like "Bella breaks down on set. Could this be her last season?" Tension mounts as star struggles with fan backlash. Insiders also hinted at tension between Bella and the creative team, especially around Ellie's arc this season. While she reportedly fought to bring more emotional softness and vulnerability to the character, the writing leaned heavily into coldness and revenge. At one point, a rumor emerged that Bella requested changes to one of the scripts, but was overruled. That episode, fans later noted, felt mechanical and emotionally hollow. Whether or not her concerns were valid, the disconnect was obvious to many viewers. Then came the biggest shock: word that Bella had considered quitting before the season wrapped. That bombshell came from a podcast guest who claimed to have connections on the production team. She was seriously done. She said she'd finish the season, but she wasn't sure about coming back. The podcast exploded. Fan reactions poured in. Some begged her to stay. Others said she should leave and let someone else take over. In a way, the off-screen drama had become more gripping than the actual plot of season 2. And now, the big question was no longer just about Bella's performance. It was about whether The Last of Us could survive the fallout. As season 2 limped toward its finale, all eyes shifted toward season 3. Normally, this would be the time for celebration, a renewal, hype trailers, press tours. But this time, silence. Officially, HBO had confirmed the series would return for a 3rd season. But what they didn't confirm was who would be coming back with it. Bella's name was mysteriously absent from every press release. Interviews with the showrunners danced around the topic. And the most telling part? No official quote from Bella herself. This silence spoke volumes. Behind the scenes, leaks painted a much more complicated picture. According to several insider reports, HBO was re-evaluating all options, including a potential soft reboot of the franchise. One rumor claimed they were considering a time jump that would allow them to recast Ellie as an older version, effectively phasing Bella out without technically firing her. Others speculated that the show might pivot entirely, focusing on new characters in a different part of the country, sidelining Ellie altogether. It would be a massive creative shift, but also a clean break from the controversy. And then there was the boldest theory of all, that HBO was preparing to quietly part ways with Bella Ramsey and announce a recast just before production began, likely citing creative direction or scheduling conflicts, rather than the real reason: public pressure and fan revolt. If that sounds harsh, it's because it is. But this is a franchise worth hundreds of millions, and in television, perception can be as powerful as performance. Meanwhile, casting directors were already moving. Multiple actresses in their early 20s were reportedly auditioning for roles that suspiciously matched an older Ellie. Among the names fans began throwing around, Caitlin Dever, Maya Hawke, Sadie Sink. No confirmations, of course, just speculation, but speculation with legs. And while all this was brewing, Bella Ramsey remained completely off the grid. No social posts, no interviews, no public appearances. Her silence became deafening, and fans knew something was coming. At this point, no outcome seemed clean. If Bella returns for season 3, she faces an audience that's deeply divided and possibly hostile. If HBO recasts her, they risk alienating a chunk of fans who still support her and see her as the rightful Ellie. Either way, the future of The Last of Us now hangs in a strange, uncomfortable limbo. And as one insider put it bluntly, whatever they do next, they can't afford to get it wrong. In the early days of The Last of Us, the fan base was united by passion. Gamers, critics, and casual viewers all praised its storytelling, visuals, and emotional weight. But now, that once loyal community is split right down the middle, and the division isn't just just loud, it's personal. On one side are the defenders, fans who believe Bella Ramsey is a victim of a controlling, often unforgiving fandom. They argue that the writing changed, not Bella, that her performance was raw, real, and brave. They praise her willingness to take creative risks and say she's being unfairly targeted for choices made far above her pay grade. On the other side, a wave of angry viewers who feel like their Ellie was taken from them. To them, the portrayal in Season 2 felt like a betrayal, an unrecognizable version of the character they loved. Some accuse the show of prioritizing agenda-driven storytelling over character consistency. Others say Bella's interpretation lacks the depth and nuance that made Ellie resonate with fans in the first place. Social media is a battlefield. Reddit threads turn into debates. Twitter posts spiral into viral arguments. YouTube comment sections are flooded with clashing perspectives. And then there are those caught in the middle. Fans who love the franchise but feel unsure about where it's going. They don't want to hate Bella. They don't want the show to fail. But they also can't ignore that something about Season 2 felt off. This fracture is dangerous because once a fan base splits like this, it's hard to put the pieces back together. Game of Thrones saw the same thing in its final season. Star Wars fans still argue about the sequel trilogy years later. And now, The Last of Us faces that same question. Can it recover its legacy before it's too late? Because even if HBO finds a way forward, whether that includes Bella Ramsey or not, they'll be walking on thin ice. When The Last of Us premiered, it didn't just adapt a beloved video game, it redefined what game-to-screen storytelling could be. Season 1 became the gold standard. It earned awards, broke viewership records, and convinced the world that emotional depth and character development could thrive in genre television. Now, all of that is in jeopardy. What began as one of the most promising shows of the decade is now hanging by a thread. And the irony? It wasn't a failed plot twist or bad CGI that caused the collapse. It was something more subtle, more emotional. Disconnect. The disconnect between character and actor, between fans and creators, between what viewers expected and what they got. And at the center of that storm is Bella Ramsey, a young, talented actor who took on a role most people wouldn't dare touch, only to find herself blamed for a problem much bigger than her. HBO is scrambling. They know the brand is at risk. Merchandise sales are down. Fan events have seen declining attendance. And while the viewership numbers remain decent, the passion has faded. The conversations have turned bitter. The magic is missing. There's still hope, of course. There always is. A stunning third season could redeem everything. A smart, sensitive evolution of Ellie's story, maybe even played by Bella if she returns, could shift the narrative. Redemption arcs have worked before, but it's going to take more than good writing. It's going to take trust. And right now, that's the one thing The Last of Us no longer has. So where does this leave Bella Ramsey? A rising star caught in a war between creators and critics. A talented performer whose biggest mistake may have been stepping into a role too sacred for some to accept. And where does this leave The Last of Us? In a fragile, uncertain place. A place where one wrong move could send it tumbling further, but also a place where redemption is still possible. TV history is full of collapses, but it's also full of comebacks. Will Bella return and reclaim the character? Will HBO recast and reboot, hoping to regain lost trust? Or will the series take an entirely new direction, one that no one sees coming? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this isn't just about a TV show anymore. It's about the pressure we put on artists, the cost of perfection, and what happens when the audience becomes part of the narrative. The Last of Us is no longer just a story about survival. It's now living one of its own.